This rich and flavorful curry is loaded with chicken and vegetables and is quick and easy enough to make on a weeknight. Here's how I make it. Going to start out with some potatoes. These are Klondike Gold potatoes. These are my favorite potatoes because they have a really thin skin and they really don't need to be peeled. All you need to do is wash them. And I just wash them under some cold water and just rub them with my fingers. They're usually not very dirty and it doesn't take a lot of scrubbing to get these Yukon Gold potatoes clean. And inevitably on some of these potatoes there's going to be a spot or two that needs to be removed. And I just lop those off with a knife and then just leave the skin on the rest of the potato. And for this dish, I'm going to cut the potatoes up into about 1/2-inch cubes. I want the potato pieces to be small enough that they're going to be fully cooked in just 30 minutes in a saucepan. And this size seems to work perfectly for this. Next is carrots, and I do peel the carrots. I'm going to cut those into roughly the same size pieces as the potatoes, about 1/2-inch cubes. Vegetable number 3 is a yellow onion. Once again, just going to dice this up into a rough dice. If you like big chunks of onion, cut them into big chunks. If you got people that are a little bit finicky about onions, cut them into little tiny bits and they will basically dissolve into nothing and just leave behind some oniony flavor. And vegetable 4 is some frozen green peas. These are just right out of the freezer. Just going to keep these set aside and let them thaw on the countertop while I work on the other stuff. And you're probably thinking that these vegetables aren't traditional for curry, and yeah, you're right, but I don't care. I'm interested in delicious here, and I've done quite a bit of experimenting with different vegetables in curry, and I've learned that me and my family like this combination. And the other primary ingredients in this dish are going to be crushed tomatoes. This is a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes in thick sauce, and also a can of coconut milk. This is light coconut milk, but just regular full-fat coconut milk would be good too. The full-fat coconut milk will give you a little bit more of a rich flavor in this, but when you see this at the end, it'll look plenty rich, and there's really no need for the extra calories, but it is delicious with the full-fat version too. Next is the protein. These are chicken breast tenderloins. My favorite chicken to use for this dish is actually boneless, skinless chicken thighs, but I happen to have these tenderloins available. Didn't have any thighs available tonight. White meat or dark meat doesn't really matter on this. You don't really have to worry about white meat chicken getting really dry because it's just going to be swimming in sauce in the end. But I'm going to cut up these chicken pieces with some kitchen shears. I like the scissors rather than a knife for cutting meat. It just saves me from getting meat germs all over my cutting board, and it's a lot safer than a knife in my opinion. But I'm going to cut this chicken into 1 or 2 inch size pieces, small enough that they'll fit on a fork or a spoon. They'll shrink a lot when they cook. So the saucepan's on medium-high heat with oil in the pan, and I'm going to go ahead and put that chicken in there. Oh, looks like there's one tenderloin that I missed. Better chop that up into smaller pieces real quick. So to that chicken, I'm going to start adding some spices. I'm going to start off with cumin seed. You could use ground cumin if you want to, but I like the little burst of flavor that you get when you get one of those cumin seeds in your mouth when you're chewing. Next is some garlic powder, and followed up by some paprika, and then some ground ginger. I like to put lots of ginger in this dish. I like this curry to have a really gingery flavor. I put quite a bit in. Of course, you could use fresh ginger if you wanted to as well. And next are the Indian spices that really make this a curry. First one is garam masala. And this is a spice mix that it has all sorts of things in it. Coriander, cardamom, clove, nutmeg. It's a very unique mix of spices that is common with Indian food. And finally, the spice that is most predominantly associated with curry, curry powder. Turmeric gives it its orange color there. And it's got all sorts of other spices in it, cumin, coriander, a lot of the same spices as the garam masala, but there's some differences there. And this is going to be the main flavor of the dish, and I like to put a lot of curry powder in this. And also just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. I'm going to go ahead and add the onions now, give that a mix up, get all those spices and the chicken and onions mixed up together. I'm going to cook these things together with the lid off until the chicken is fully cooked and the onions are cooked as well and looking translucent. One other spice that I like in this dish is cayenne. This is going to give us some flavor and heat, but I'm not going to add it to the dish right now. I've got people that are going to be eating this that don't like spicy food. So what I'm going to do is just put this cayenne pepper on the table right next to the salt and pepper, and then I can add some to my own on my plate when I want to. While those chicken and onions are cooking, I'm going to get some naan ready. This is some pre-made naan that we buy at the Sam's Club, and it's surprisingly really good. I've never made my own naan from scratch. We always just use this stuff, It's fresh when you buy it, and we just keep it in the freezer and just dip into it whenever we want to use it. We actually use this naan for little mini pizzas sometimes too. That's really good like that. This naan is a little bit thicker than the stuff that we usually get at our favorite Indian restaurant, but it's still really good. And all it needs to be done with this is just to warm it up in the oven. I'm just going to put it on a sheet pan right now with some parchment paper, and it's just going to sit on the counter and defrost while the curry cooks, and we'll pop that in the oven here shortly before dinner time. So after about 10 minutes or so, that chicken and onions are looking like they're pretty much cooked. I'm going to go ahead and add the tomatoes and the coconut milk and give that a thorough mix and get that all mixed up nice. And then goes the vegetables as well, the potatoes and carrots and the peas. Just going to mix those in and make sure all those vegetables are down submerged down in that sauce. And I'm going to put the lid on and let that come up to a simmer. And once that comes up to a simmer, I'm going to give it one more stir, and then I'm going to put the lid back on and turn the heat down to about medium-low. And we're just going to simmer that for about 30 minutes. And every 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to take the lid off and give it a stir, and then put the lid back on. And after about 20 minutes, I'm going to take the lid off and leave it off, and I'm just going to let it simmer with the lid off, and that's going to reduce and thicken. Now, if the vegetables are cooked to your liking, you can eat it right now if you want, but I like it really thick. So I like to leave it on a simmer with the lid off for probably a good 10 minutes until it gets real nice and thick, like what you see here. But if you want it saucier, just take it off the burner sooner. Time to serve it up. This is a pretty well balanced meal all by itself, so when we have this is usually the whole meal. Like I said at the beginning, this is a very hearty chicken curry that's just packed with meat and vegetables, and with a naan on the side, it's just a complete meal that's totally delicious. Well, I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. See you on the next one.